from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Monday, January 24th. So today we have the moon leaving this Libran energy for Scorpio energy. We will be locking into Scorpio energy around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The moon does go void, of course, around 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And so for the majority of the waking hours of the day, we are going to have the moon in Libra trying to show us where balance, where peace, where happiness, where joy, where beauty needs to come into focus before we get a little bit unstable in our mental plane and in our heart space, before we do that deep dive into Scorpio energy that, of course, is very transformative because we illuminate the dark to the light. We illuminate the pain and turn it into power. It is a very, very intense, passionate energy, but all of us are ready to move away from the struggle and move into a little bit of a place of more grace and ease. So hopefully you'll be a little bit more open to doing the very deep, dark, transformative work that, of course, the moon in Scorpio is going to highlight for us. We have 10 different aspects taking place here today. 9 of them involve the moon. This is also the last day that Mercury in a retrograde is in Aquarian energy, as Mercury is preparing to creep back into Capricorn. We also have to understand that this is the day that Mars moves out of Sagittarius and into Capricorn. Definitely going to recommend that you go ahead, you check January's energy forecast for these astro events, where I go into a little bit more depth and a little bit more detail. So right out of the gate, while the moon is still in Libra, there's a very positive interaction with Mars. This is like a last hurrah, aligning with our truth, aligning with our purpose, aligning with our path, aligning with a new meaning, a new direction that we are now willing to take, willing to pursue, willing to aggress ourselves because of the new information, the new details that have been revealed to us. The moon in Libra, of course, wants us to find emotional safety, emotional balance, emotional compromise, and cooperation with our heart and with our head. But Mars, of course, wants us to kind of discard all that and just do it, just take action and worry about all that later. Lucky for us, the moon in Libra is going to prevent us from just taking action willy-nilly. We do want to stay in a place where we're higher vibe, where we're seeing the bigger, broader perspective of what our actions would actually mean for us and long-term consequences if we were to act out without considering the consequences that come with our actions. The moon is going to bump into Jupiter, and Jupiter, of course, is in Pisces. This is encouraging us to elevate to our higher selves. Again, gaining that bigger, broader picture of why we feel the way we do, why we think the way that we do, why we had to go through some of the experiences that we do, because it is enlightening us to our strength, to our meaning, to our purpose. The moon in Libra right now wants to identify what it is that we need emotionally, what it is that we need as an individual to feel balanced, to feel safe, to feel secure. And because this Jupiter energy can feel a little bit extra, we might be hypersensitive to our realms. We might be overreactive to the words coming at us, to the actions that are taking place in our realms. But again, it is all part of the bigger plan, testing us to see whether or not we've learned enough to step out of the chaos of our environments, to align with our higher selves and see what choice point we're being presented with, so that we're not continuously reacting from ego and creating a little bit of a mess for ourselves. The moon is going to bump into Neptune. This is going to provide us with a huge opportunity to gain some intuitive insight. This is a beautiful opportunity to align with our higher selves, to gain a vision, a dream, to tap into some creativity that we got going on in order to come up with some of the solutions that we need to solve some of the emotional problems that we now know we're having. The moon in Libra definitely wants us to balance out our heart and our head. The Neptune energy in Pisces wants us to elevate ourselves to our higher selves, to strengthening our intuition so that we can see what it is that spiritually we need as a practice in our day-to-day lives to rely upon to balance out the physical repercussions of what's going on in our realm. Many changes, right? We got a lot of changes happening to our physical realm, to our relationships, to our money matters, to our own worth and value. And so now we're trying to put the pieces together on what it is that we need to do from here. And the best way to do that is to be triggered by an outside activation so that we can say, I know better. Let me step back. Let me align with my higher self. Let's see what my intuition is trying to tell me, instead of going balls to the walls and just giving them the same old egoic reaction that is definitely not helping us to grow, definitely not helping us to solve any problems. This is when Mars moves into Capricorn. This, again, I'm going to ask you to go and listen to January's energy forecast for this particular astro event. Mars moving into Capricorn, first of all, we're going to slow things down. Capricorn energy is an earth energy. We are thinking long and hard about our long-term goals, our long-term dreams, our long-term ambitions. And now, because Mars rules over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, we have to be very deliberate with our actions, very calculated. We're very persistent. We definitely want to push forward. That Capricorn energy is the great manifester. So we are bringing certain elements to life, but they have to be thought about. Mars energy is going to be super freaking just ticked off and a little bit frustrated because Mars doesn't want to think. Mars just wants to do. And we can't do that in Capricorn energy. So there is going to be a little bit of a cha-cha-cha dance that we're going to have to learn new steps to, because this is going to be a very productive time, but we have to do it in a logical and practical, calculated way in order to actually bring the elements to life that we need, foundational elements to support us in building brand new foundation systems and routines moving forward. So definitely check out that astro event. The moon is going to bump into the true node. This is a very harmonious way. We're definitely getting a glimpse, another puzzle piece on what it is that we want to do with ourselves, what path we want to walk, what our dreams, what our visions look like. It is definitely showing us where it is that new elements need to be built. We have Mars now in Capricorn ready to get to work. So these little puzzle pieces snapping together is definitely revealing a bigger, broader picture on what it is that we need to do in the here and now to bridge the gap between where it is that we're at and where it is that we want to be. Now, the moon squares Pluto. Pluto is the great transformer, and he does so by putting a certain destruction, a certain death to elements that are holding us back, mostly connected to the pain and the suffering from our previous experiences. But here's the thing. Out of a square, this is a tension point, this is an inner conflict. It does back us into a corner for us to take an action and make a decision within ourselves. Now, the moon in Libra is not the best energy to make a decision because Libran energy typically very indecisive. But here's the thing. It's helping us balance our emotional wants, needs, and desires. And because Pluto is in Capricorn, showing us where the power struggle within is alive and well, showing us where it is that we have to boss up and take control in our lives, to stand in our own power, to stand in our own place of authority, this is definitely going to put us at odds with what it is that has been holding us back, what it is that triggers a pain pattern within us, and whether or not we are going to use that as inspiration, as motivation, as a catalyst to boss up and to stand in our power, or whether or not we're going to stay in the victimhood mentality of our past pain experiences. We get a huge help when the moon bumps into Neptune. This is helping us align with our higher selves. This is helping us gain intuitive insight on what's going on here, balancing the scales with what it is that we need to do to honor ourselves spiritually, honor ourselves, honor our higher selves by taking action from the pain experiences that Pluto is illuminating for us. Yes, we can become a little bit hypersensitive and fixated on certain aspects. There is a little bit of a negative looping narrative in our head, but the moon in Libra is going to help us balance that narrative out, give us the pros and cons. And we do so by aligning with our higher selves and relying more on our intuition than our physical circumstances that right now just don't feel so great. The moon at this point is void. We are very unstable. We are questioning everything. This is not a good time to make any decisions, to take any kinds of actions. The moon bumps into the true node. Now everything is falling apart. Why? Because we let that negative narrative in. Why? Because Pluto needed to illuminate all of our pain, all of our doubts, all of our insecurities and uncertainties in order for us to choose. And of course, that moon in Libra does not like to choose because we're always indecisive in Libran energy. We always look outside of ourselves for validation, for a direction. So we might be questioning right now what it is that we're going to do, what it is that we need. Why do we feel this way? Why are we thinking this way? How did I feel so good earlier on in the day? And now I'm just feeling absolutely cray-cray. This is what happens when the moon goes void, of course. And we are moving into Scorpio energy. This gets very intense. It gets very uncomfortable. So we have to understand that we start off the day with a lot more surety than we're going to end the day off in. That's okay. It's part of the process. You got to learn to go with the flow. The moon bumps into Venus. Now, Venus rules over Libran energy, so there's a lot of power here. But here's the thing. Venus, like I said, she's retrograde. She's climbing her ass out of this dark pit that she, found herself in about a month ago. She has been stripping away the layers of her ego, the layers of what it is that she's been investing in, that she hasn't been getting that energy reciprocated back into. She is kind of building up a new sense of worth and value within herself. And the moon bumping into Venus at this particular stage is a harmonious aspect, especially right before we jump into Scorpio energy, because it's showing us that, we are understanding that we still have some work to do. We understand that we're still in this pit. We understand that we've done a huge amount of growth and healing, especially since before Christmas, and that we are definitely recognizing where balance in our emotions are needed. Yes, this has been all over the place. We feel like we have, two different directions pulling at us all the time. That is what happens when we are growing, when we are evolving, when we are enlightening ourselves, though darker force energies tries to pull us back. So the moon bumping into Venus at this time, this is a little bit of an oomph. This is a little bit of a power uppage, if you will. We're grasping on to what we know to be true, what we know we feel, what we know we have to change, and we're going to run with it. At this particular point, though, this is when the moon shifts into Scorpio. This is where things get hella intense, very passionate. And the very first aspect that the moon in Scorpio makes is a sextile, which is a good energy, with Mars, and Mars is a co-ruler to Scorpio, so this is a pretty powerful aspect. Not even to mention that this is Mars's first aspect while in Capricorn energy. So there's a lot of power here. And we're recognizing that we are rising above all of the darkness, all of the pain, all of the struggle. We are recognizing where it is that we are transforming at an accelerated rate, and that means being up and down and tossed aside and back and forth. But ultimately, when we know that we have the power to find balance, to find stability within ourselves, regardless of whatever the storm is doing outside of us in our exterior realms, we have the power to make a change. Mars especially wants us to boss up, stand in our power. That Capricorn energy is power, is authority. The moon in Scorpio wants us to emotionally transform out of the indecisive, uncertain, doubting energy that we just experienced, and at least stand on solid ground for 2 seconds to see that we have goals, that we want change, and that we're willing to do whatever it takes in order to get out of this funk.